Our second keynote speech will be given by Barbara Reid, who's already given an inspirational talk yesterday on the quality of life after hemiglossectomy. After a treatment, Barbara set up the Young Tongues, a cancer charity. So, Barbara, are we online?
We are. Thank you so much, David.
Okay, I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just start sharing my screen. There we go. There we go.
We can see it all.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for confirming. So hello, everybody. My name is Barbara Fountain Reid, newly, as some of you might have heard in my speech yesterday, and I am the founder of the Young Tongues. We are a peer-to-peer support group specifically set up for young tongue cancer patients and survivors, but we also welcome people who are diagnosed with cancers which require similar treatments. Over the next 20 minutes, I will tell you the story of how we came to exist and what it is we do, what real life impact we are having on the community, and what our plans for the future are. Please feel free to submit questions as I go through the presentation, and I'll be more than happy to address them at the end. So to tell you the story of the Young Tongues, I have to take you back to the 31st of December 2018. That is the day that I was diagnosed with squamous cell sarcoma of the tongue. Of course, I had heard of breast cancer, bowel cancer, skin cancer, prostate cancer, amongst many others, but tongue cancer, I had no idea that even existed. So I quickly learned that at the ripe age of 31 years, with no risk factors, I was an atypical patient. Looking around, the waiting room confirmed this, as nobody looked like me. I was surrounded by frail, elderly patients and would often get mistaken for a nurse or a carer. I didn't look sick, I didn't feel sick, yet technically I was there for the same reason as everyone else. When my medical team explained to me what a partial glossectomy was, it blew my mind. I truly believe that I had the best medical team looking after me. I had full trust in my surgeons, and my Macmillan nurses were absolute legends. But I found myself coming back from appointments with more questions than answers. Not because of the lack of support, but because of the questions I had. They couldn't be answered by a surgeon, an oncologist, or a nurse. I mean, how could they? No matter how many patients they have seen, they have never lived through it. I would ask my friends to Google things for me, and I always got the same answer. You just concentrate on doing you. It was only later that I discovered that what they found on Dr. Google was showing them a very scary future, and they didn't want to dampen my optimism. So, as I progressed through my cancer treatment, I had a lot of support resources available to me. My Macmillan nurse was a great bridge in getting urgent messages to my team. So, for example, when I encountered another random bump and was freaking out and didn't know what it was, the Norfolk and Waveney Big C Centre provided me with a sanctuary that didn't smell of hospital, and where I could go and have a cup of tea and hang in between appointments, get financial advice, relaxation classes, amongst a lot of other services. And Shine Cancer Support connected me with other young cancer patients and allowed me to openly talk about my diagnosis, make new friends, as well as unapologetically laugh over crude jokes. Shine's Great Escape weekend was invaluable to me. I made friendships that last for a lifetime, and it helped me see that I was grieving for the person that I was prior to my diagnosis. And yet, with all that support, something really fundamental was missing. So even though I was supported by all these amazing organizations, I found myself being lonely. The local oral cancer group was made up of mostly elderly and frail men. And as much as I appreciated the conversation, the only thing we had in common was the diagnosis. Our treatment plans were different. The way our bodies healed and recovered were different, and our prognosis were different. The conversations revolved about grandchildren, shifting from long careers to retirement, and going through the list of illnesses and different cancers they had experienced in their lifetime. The emotions that overcame me were vast, and I have chosen to be really, really honest today actually painfully honest. So I was angry. I was angry because I was sitting here at 31 years of age, dealing with a shitty diagnosis, talking to people who had lived a full life when mine had only just started. I was scared. After digesting the long list of illnesses and different cancers one person had lived through, quietly, I was thinking to myself, is this it? Is this me? Is this my life? One side effect after the other, one cancer after the other. And then I felt incredible guilt. How dare I complain about my experience when others were suffering so much more? I felt that my pain, my grief, and my experience wasn't valid, because when I look around the room, there was nobody else that looked like me. So turns out I was wrong. Even though I haven't met another young person with tongue cancer face to face to this very day, turns out there are a lot more out there than I initially thought. It started with two American girls named Steph and Jamie, who I found on Instagram. And then little by little, I found more. And I started following, direct messaging, and posting about my own experience. Suddenly, I was receiving messages from newly diagnosed patients who were asking me all those questions I had when returning from my appointments, with more questions than answers. I noticed that sharing my experience was helping them, and in turn, hearing their story was helping me. So welcome to 2020, the year where nearly nothing happened. I don't want to undermine the horrific effects of COVID-19 has had on all of us, but I have to be honest, for me personally, the whole lockdown scenario came at a really good time. I was 1 year out of having my surgery and I was piling under pressure. After all, I should be better now. Cancer was in my past and it was time to get back to work and smash it. This was also when I started presenting with PTSD-like symptoms. So the lockdown meant that there was no work, especially not for an event manager. And it forced me to focus on my mental health. I was making good progress with counselling and focusing on maintaining healthy habits, things like eating healthy foods, doing exercise, meditating, and all that jazz. But still, I felt that something was missing. Something was holding me back from healing. So I scheduled a Zoom meeting and sent the link out to both Jamie and Stephanie and anybody else that I had connected with, and asked them to do the same. Within a week, we had a list of 30 people, which then grew to 50, 100, and currently stands at approximately 200. The very first Zoom meetup was simply beautiful. It very quickly became clear that each of our experience was unique, but everybody's story was filled with familiarities in some way or another. And suddenly, I didn't feel alone anymore. The first meetup inspired me. For the first time, I felt this rush of energy, and I knew what we had here was special, valuable, and had the potential to help. All it needed was someone to bring the community together. And I guess, why shouldn't it be me? The Young Tongues was born. A friend designed the artwork, WhatsApp groups were set up, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and linked accounts set up, and volunteers recruited. Welcome to the Young Tongues. We are so glad you have found us. So allow me to get more specific. Who we are. We are a peer-to-peer support group for young tongue cancer patients and survivors. We are set up by the community for the community. We come from all corners of the globe. We connect and support each other digitally through chat groups, virtual meetups, and our social media channels. What we do. We have regular meetups. Each meetup is facilitated by a regional host, but each meeting is open to anyone regardless of geography. We currently have regional hosts for the USA, Europe, and Australia. We have a private WhatsApp group and a private Facebook group where we can offer peer support around the clock. One of the benefits of having a global audience means someone is always awake. Our social media content is curated to increase awareness of tongue cancer, provide practical guidance for patients, and share the common experience to reduce isolation. So here's some examples of what we do. Every Monday, we run a campaign called Introduction, giving the community the opportunity to tell their story in their own words. This also helps newly diagnosed patients to connect and reach out to individuals they have most in common with. That could be based on gender, age, geography, or more specific circumstances such as being pregnant when diagnosed, having a young family, being self-employed, experiencing PTSD, or experiencing a secondary cancer. Once a week, we run our tongue cancer fact sheets campaign to help patients avoid Dr. Google and find high-level explanations of keywords they will come across in their medical settings. I say high level because it can be very tricky to explain something in 4 slides, and we fully acknowledge that we are not medical experts in the field. So as a group, we've made a massive list for all the big words that we have come across, and we're currently going through it one by one. I then go out and find a resource that gives a good explanation, pull the information into our slides, and make sure we source where the information has come from. This has an added benefit of pointing our community towards other organisations that have helpful resources. Periodically, we like to follow up on our tongue cancer fact sheets with our real life series, where images have been donated from within the community to help newly diagnosed patients get a better understanding of what and how things look like when things are healed up. It also helps demonstrate how different each experience is and the vast variety in different outcomes. We make sure to include trigger warnings. So I hope you don't mind that on the top right corner of the slide, I have slightly made that very small to obscure anything more explicit that could be triggering for anybody. And every Saturday we share community questions where we pull out real life questions that were asked within our groups and the conversations that resulted. Now we have some ground rules within the groups that is that everyone is welcome to share their own personal experience, but not to give medical advice. We also have some designated members who act as moderators, so to flag anything up that may need intervening. By sharing these community questions, we allow patients and survivors who don't want to engage directly with the private groups, as they can be a bit full on, but it gives them a window to the conversations that are being had. And finally, our amazing Laura Marston, which you will have encountered in the previous panel, also known to us as Diz, shares a recipe with us every Friday as part of Friday Kitchen or Friday Drinks with Diz. What I love about this is that Diz shares her own experience of developing taste and textures and how she has had to adapt. Laura has written a brilliant cookbook for the swallows, which I can wholeheartedly recommend, and everyone watching today should go and get themselves a copy. So currently the project is very much driven by a small number of individuals, and going forward we definitely need to have help to reach our potential. The feedback and messages that I receive privately are motivation enough to not only keep the group going, but build upon the foundations we have laid. We are most definitely a niche, but one that seems to be underserved and underrepresented, and it's my ambitions to change that. So if you're a young tongue cancer patient or survivor, we are your community and we are here for you in whatever capacity you need us. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter under @YoungTonguesGlobal, and sign up to our mailing list on our website, which is www.youngtonguesglobal.com. If you are here in a professional capacity and feel there are ways you could support or collaborate with us, then please contact me via email on youngtongues@outlook.com. And I think I might have gone a bit fast because we're ready for time for questions. So I'll just stop sharing my screen and see if anything's come in. If not, I have got some pre-prepared. There we go.
That was fantastic, Barbara. I think you've beaten everyone to the questions so far, but that's fine. That's okay.
That's okay. I have got some frequently asked questions.
I think that I was just going to ask for my own interest, as a clinician who's keen on supporting these sorts of things, what sort of things would you need from me? How could I help you?
Well, firstly, awareness that we exist is really helpful, and telling any of your younger patients that we're here. also, we are actually, what we would really be helpful for us is if we had some clinicians who would volunteer to fact check for us, or to provide us with useful articles which we can maybe adapt to a bit less medical speech, if that makes sense, and put out there. So because there's only a small handful of volunteers, it's actually very time consuming to create content, as I have found out, especially as I try to post something every single day. So any sort of content links, that's really, really helpful to us. And also if you have any any research questionnaires that you need participants that we can share with our community, we are really happy to do that.
Oh no, that sounds amazing. I will certainly catch up with you and let you know to my colleagues. So the other thing is that I'm surprised Chris hasn't said he's young too. What sort of age groups are you looking for?
Yeah,
I'm in their group, David. That's why.
A young member, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the youngest member there.
But the issues are slightly different. I think you explored that really, really well, Barbara, that, what is important to an older group is not necessarily as important to a younger group. Yeah. No offense, Chris.
No, absolutely. And it's a really great question. And actually we've had the discussion and we've purposefully haven't put a number on it, because let's be honest, you are as old as you feel. And but what we do always say is that our content is created for people who are still of working age, may have young family, or haven't started a family yet. And we very much let it be organic, because I think people sort of realize if it's for them or not. So yeah, that's where we sort of stand on that.
And some of the areas that you're crossing through there are very, very difficult ones. I mean, who do you signpost to? I mean, there must be lots of specialist groups that you need to be involved with, not just the head and neck community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we keep adding more and more to our list as we go along. And basically we have anything from career advice to family advice and how to deal with grief. And the thing is, we're a community, we aren't experts, so all we can do is signpost to other organizations that deal with that. But at the same time, I find it really healing to have the conversation. And I said it yesterday, we try to, we're very colourful, all our content is very colourful. We try to be very positive, but we also want to be realistic and authentic. And we think it's really important. So if someone does need to have a rant, they are very welcome to have that. But what I really like about the community is that it automatically shifts back into trying to take the silver linings out of it.
Yeah, I've got a question from online now, Barbara, and because most of your social media is online anyway, but Debbie's asked, do you have any leaflets with your information we could provide our patients with?
Well, as we were born in the pandemic and leaflets weren't allowed, we don't, but we could easily create some and send out digital versions for print. So one of the things I do need to sort of correct a little bit, we aren't a charity, so we're not registered as anything at the moment. We exist in the ether, in the world, but we haven't decided what our official standing is, although I'm hoping that will change in the near future. So we are currently, everything that we've created we have done without a single pound. And we would like to keep that going because it keeps admin quite easy. So if we can supply you with a PDF and you can print it on your computer, great.
And also I guess you must have some patrons in the charity community that are ready to help. I saw Chris put his hand up, so he's obviously got a question.
Can I suggest something, Barbara, that we talk maybe next week? But we have a lot of literature that we send out to all the hospitals, so maybe we could do a combined leaflet, because we have the funds to produce that sort of thing. We have the database of the hospitals, people like Debbie who asked that question. If we could do a combined sort of leaflet that has a little bit about the swallows, but then has the other side all about you guys, you know, because we're all about making sure that patient gets the right support at the right time. And, you know, I would rather refer patients to you that are needed than us try and help and support. So maybe we can do a collaboration. And, you know, like we did with Laura's cookbook, if I need to go and get funding, I will embarrass someone to give us funding. So, you know, then you're not having to worry about that, but it would be a combined effort. And I'm sure then all our support boxes then would have that in, or every time we send out information to the hospitals, it would be in there. So it keeps your costs right down, but we do it as a collaboration.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. We'll have a chat about that. Perfect. I think one of the other things that I wanted to mention about the group and the dynamic of how it works, I would have been extremely grateful if I would have had a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group whilst I was going through treatment, because there are a lot of times things happen when you're at home, so no longer in the medical setting, where you're just not quite sure, is this meant to happen or not? And where I think, especially here in England, or for me personally, I always feel like I don't want to impose myself on my doctor's time. So quite often enough, we sort of suffer in silence. But by having a group, you can put your feelers out and go, is this meant to be? And if the entire group goes, no, you need to like call your surgeon now or call your medical team now, you sort of have that feedback and validation that you can go and do that. In my case, I actually ended up having a really bad post-op operation, like post-op
complication.
Not a complication, an infection, about 6 months after. And you know, my face was swollen and everything, but I had no idea. And I was like, oh, it's all right, you know, it's nothing. And then once I did actually go and see my team, they were like mortified and were like, why didn't you come earlier? I said, oh, I just, it wasn't on my radar. So in order to have those conversations, to be able to, compare stuff, it is really helpful.
And it's a theme that's always come through about bothering doctors, and it fits into, largely speaking, what you're talking about before about survivor guilt, you know, feeling that you're, you know, and I think it is a really important thing, you know, to do bother your doctors if you don't understand, but having a forum where you can ask that question so you don't feel any trouble is also really useful. But bother us, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, but there also are a lot of things that I personally wouldn't feel comfortable bringing up with my surgeon. I mean, my surgeon is an absolute legend and I think he's great, but I don't think he would get my problems with facial hair, for example. I don't think he would understand. I don't think I could talk with him about sex, for example, which is conversations that we can have within the group and speak openly and freely about, just amongst many other subjects. So to have that peer support and being able for someone else to go, oh yeah, I got that same thing, I thought I was alone in that, is really helpful.
No, I think it certainly is. A question I've got for you is that, you know, I imagine that people are referred to you or hit your group slightly later than you'd like. When would you like them to introduce themselves to the group?
Well, actually, there has been a shift. I think a lot of people find us when they first are diagnosed because we are on Instagram and because we use hashtag tongue cancer, and there aren't that many that use that hashtag. So actually, recently we've had, from the top of my head, at least 8 patients who are going through active treatment. And that's a great resource to have this group to ask a lot of questions of what to expect. But then the great thing, we have 50 people like on a WhatsApp group. So you're going to get a really wide variety of answers because we all know that the journey is unique to each an individual, but at least you have a little bit more of a gauge of what to expect. But at the same time, we are very welcome anyone who's ever had the diagnosis, and they can engage with us on the level that's right for them. We have some people who have left the WhatsApp group because it is full on. It does ping a lot. I would mute it and just dip in and out, and instead just follow us on the Instagram. And also our meetups, our virtual meetups, it's not as accessible, unfortunately, because it's virtual. It's not necessarily as accessible for everyone, especially when we talk about difficulties with speech. And we have trialed a version where someone can chat, and then I would give them my voice to read what they are typing. Sounds a lot easier than actually done in practice. So we're still working that out. Hopefully we can all, you know, get on a flight one day and meet each other in a really nice resort someday.
That would be nice.
That'd be amazing.
Now we're coming to an end, Barbara. I just wanted, before we sort of end this, is there any last sort of point you'd like to make to the participants?
Oh gosh, I would say please just get in touch. We are grateful for any communications that we can get and get our existence out there, but also for any resources that you think would help us create more content, because it would cut down the amount of hours that I would have to spend, and I'd be very grateful. No,
we will. I'm sure you'll get many people interested. Now, thanks for your time, Barbara. Really appreciate it. And a wonderful story. Good project too. No, brilliant. Take care. Bye now.